solving a problem that involves proportional reasoning. For today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to use algebra to solve this problem. So let's begin by looking at the question. There are 270 grade 9 students at a high school, and 80% of these students attend the spring dance. Half of the grade 9 students who attend the dance buy their tickets at the door. How many grade 9 students who attend the dance buy their tickets at the door? Well, let's begin by underlining any important information that this question tells us. We're told that there are 270 grade 9 students altogether at this high school, and only 80% of these students attend the dance. We're also told that half of the students who attend the dance buy their tickets at the door. What do we need to find? We need to figure out how many of the students who attend the dance buy their tickets at the door. So there are actually two things that we need to find here. First, we have to figure out how many students attend the spring dance. Once we figure that out, we have to find out how many of these students buy their tickets at the door. So where should we begin? Well, like I told you earlier, we're going to be using algebra to solve this problem. What is algebra? Algebra is the part of math in which letters or symbols are used to represent numbers and quantities. So for today's lesson, we are going to be using variables to create equations. So let's start by figuring out what the two quantities are that we need to represent. Well, in the first part of this question, we're looking at the total number of students that attend this high school and how many of those students actually attend the dance. So let's choose X to represent the total number of grade 9 students at this high school and Y to represent the number of students who attend the spring dance. Now we need to come up with an equation to relate X and Y. Think about how X and Y can be related. How are the total number of students related to the number of students that attend the dance? Well, we know that of all the students, only 80% of them attend the dance. So how can we create our equation? 80% of 270 will tell us how many students attend the dance. So what we're trying to actually calculate here is Y. This is what's unknown. We don't know how many students attend the dance. So let's start the equation with Y equals, since this is what we need to calculate. So how would you calculate 80% of 270? Well, one way we can do this is by turning 80% into a decimal. Do you remember how to do that? Well, since percent means out of 100, 80 over 100 also represents 80%. Do you remember how to turn a fraction into a decimal? Simply take the numerator and divide it by the denominator. 80 divided by 100 equals 0.80 or 0.8. So to figure out how many students attend the spring dance, I would take 0.80 and multiply it by the total number of students. Since we're using an algebraic equation, I'm going to put X here. X represents the total number of grade 9 students. That way, if the number of students ever changed, you could still calculate how many attended the dance. But since we do know the number in this case, let's replace X with the number 270, since that's how many students are at this school. Y is equal to 0.80 multiplied by 270. How would you read this equation in words? In words, the equation is the total number of students who attend the dance is equal to 0.80 or 80% of the total number of grade 9 students. So let's calculate it. Y is equal to 216. When I simplify this, I get 216. So now we've just solved for our unknown. We just found that there are 216 students who attend the spring dance. So we've just solved the first part of this question. We know how many students attend the dance, but do we know how many of those students buy their tickets at the door? Well, not yet, but we can still figure that out. What information does the question tell you about this? We're told that half of these students, so half of 216, will buy their ticket at the door. I'm sure you can think of a really quick way to calculate half of a number, but for the purpose of today's lesson, we're going to solve this again using algebra. So we're going to use x to represent the number of students who attend the dance, and y to represent the number of students who buy their ticket at the door. This is the information we don't know, so this is what we need to calculate. So how do you calculate half of something? Well, there's a few ways you can do that. Think about it. If you had a pie and you were only getting half of it, what would you do? That's right, you would split it in two, or divide it by 2. You would get 1 out of 2. What if I asked you to express that as a percentage? What's half of 100%? That's right, 50%. How can we use these values and put them into our equation? Well, to calculate the number of students who buy their ticket at the door, we would take the total number of students who attend the dance, which we've represented by x, and we would divide it by 2. Or we could take 50% and write it as a decimal, which would be 0.50, and multiply it by the number of students who attend the dance. That will tell us what 50% of that number is. So let's replace our x with 216, since we've just figured out how many students actually attend this dance. Y is equal to 0.50 multiplied by 216. Can we calculate this now? Let's simplify the right side of this equation. Y is equal to 108. We've just found that there are 108 students who buy their ticket at the door. Let's check our answer using this equation. Y is equal to 216 divided by 2. That will tell us what half of 216 is. 216 divided by 2 gives us 108. We got the same answer. Therefore, we can conclude that there are 108 students who buy their ticket at the door. Great work today. Remember, this was just one way of solving this problem. Check out our playlist to find different methods of solving this exact same question.